All right, let me tell you about the night that changed everything for me. I used to work as a 911 dispatcher. You know, the person who answers those emergency calls and sends help. It was a late shift, around 2 a.m., and I was starting to feel that kind of drowsy you get after hours of quiet. Suddenly the phone rang, breaking the silence. I picked it up and right away I could hear this woman breathing heavily on the other end. Her voice was barely above a whisper and she said, "Please, help me. He's here. He's in my house." Before I could even ask her where she was or what was happening, the call just cut off. I tried calling her back, but there was no answer. My gut told me something was wrong. I pulled up the address on the caller ID and sent the closest police unit to the location. A few minutes later, I got a radio call from the officers at the scene. They sounded confused. "There's no one here," they said. "And this place, it's empty. The house has been abandoned for years." I double-checked the caller ID, and that's when things got strange. The call log, it was gone. There was no record of the call anywhere in the system, as if it had never happened. My heart was racing, but I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just a glitch. But right as I was taking a deep breath, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. And all it said was, "He's coming for you." At that moment, the lights in the dispatch office flickered. My heart pounded, and I tried to tell myself it was just a coincidence. I shook my head, trying to clear it, and went back to work, trying to push the whole thing out of my mind. But as the night wore on, I started to feel watched. It's hard to explain, but every so often I'd feel like there was someone standing right behind me. I'd glance over my shoulder, but of course no one was there. The room was empty, silent except for the hum of the equipment. Finally, around 3:30 a.m., I got up to take a quick break. As I walked down the empty hallway to the bathroom, I heard a faint whisper echoing through the corridor. "I'm here." It was the same voice I'd heard on the call, that desperate, terrified woman. I froze, my whole body going cold. I turned, trying to find the source of the voice, but there was no one in the hall. Just me, alone in the fluorescent light. I took a shaky breath and hurried back to my desk, my hands trembling. I just wanted the shift to end. Finally, 5 a.m. came around, and I practically sprinted out of the building, locking up behind me. I thought that was it. I'd go home, get some sleep, and forget all about it. But when I got to my car, I felt a chill as I saw a piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. It was a note scribbled in handwriting I didn't recognize. It said, "Don't think you're safe. He knows where you are." I looked around, but the parking lot was empty, just dim streetlights casting long shadows. My heart was racing as I got into my car and locked the doors. I drove home, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. For the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I'd catch glimpses of a shadow outside my window at night or hear faint footsteps on the stairs, but every time I looked, no one was there. Then one night, I was lying in bed, trying to convince myself that it was all in my head. That's when I heard my phone buzz again. I reached for it, dreading what I'd see. It was a text from that same unknown number. It read, "Look outside." Terrified, I crept to my window, and there, standing just beyond the streetlight, was a man, his face hidden in the shadows, but his eyes, cold and unblinking, were fixed right on me. And then my phone buzzed again. Another message. "It's your turn now." Terrified, I crept to my window, and there, standing just beyond the streetlight, was a man, his face hidden in the shadows, but his eyes, cold and unblinking, were fixed right on me. And then my phone buzzed again. Another message. "It's your turn now." My stomach dropped. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but my hands were shaking so badly that I nearly dropped the phone. I glanced back at the window and he was still there, closer now, just at the edge of my yard, his figure clearer in the dim light. I could make out a crooked smile on his face. I backed away from the window, barely able to breathe. I dialed 911 instinctively, but as soon as I hit call, the line went dead. No dial tone, no sound at all. Just silence. My phone wouldn't reconnect no matter what I tried. It was as if the world had gone still. Then I heard it. A slow, deliberate knock on my front door. It wasn't frantic or aggressive, just a steady knock like someone who knew I was inside and was waiting for me to answer. I held my breath, paralyzed, watching the door as the knocking continued. And then, silence again. After a few minutes, I thought maybe he'd gone. Maybe it was over. I was just beginning to feel a small bit of relief when my phone buzzed with one last message. I'm inside. My heart dropped as I turned around, and there, standing in the dark corner of my living room, was the man from the window. His eyes met mine as he whispered, I told you, I'm coming for you. And that's the last thing I remember before everything went black.